It's a tough pill to swallow, but one of the most powerful moments that you can have is realizing, holy crap, it's me. I've been the one holding myself back. And now that I see it, I can change it. It's uncomfortable for sure, but also incredibly empowering. Because when you realize that you're the one holding the reins, you also realize that you have the ability to alter your course. And that moment of clarity is where real momentum begins. Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that inspires action and helps you to turn your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Because it is the start that stops most people, I'm dedicating this episode to unpacking what self-sabotage actually is, how it sneaks into our side hustle journey, and most importantly, what you can do about it so that you finally start and grow your side hustle. The topic of this episode was actually sparked by something last week's guest, Laura Nicole Jennings, said when I asked her the biggest challenge in getting started. Laura trains people to become VAs, but what she said can apply to any person and their side hustle. Here's Laura.
When starting out, the number one thing that actually gets in the way is mindset. It has nothing to do with your skills or networking. It's all mindset. We love to psych ourselves out. We love to self-sabotage. Imposter syndrome is real and it's a beast and it happens. I can't tell you how many conversations I have where it's literally just me saying, like, you can do this. Like, they know it logically, but our logical brain doesn't kick in these scenarios. Yeah. And so when you're first starting, that truly is the biggest obstacle. Mm-hmm. And it's what stops so many people.
And honestly, I couldn't agree more. I've seen it over and over again. I've taught it. I've lived it. It's not that you don't have the ability. It's not that you don't have enough time. It's that there's a part of you that's blocking your own progress. Almost like you're arguing with your own dreams. On a conscious level, you're saying to yourself, I'd love to be doing this side hustle. You think about the added income it would bring you and what you'd be doing with that and how awesome that would be. But then your subconscious conditioning kicks in and reminds you of what went wrong last time you tried something new in the business realm. Or reminds you of when you got rejected or maybe passed up for a promotion. And fear takes over and stops you in your tracks. So let's talk about it. There are 3 points on the side hustle journey where the self-sabotage loves to show up. The first is before you even start, when the idea is still just sitting in your head. The second is when you're in it, you've begun, and now you're stuck or stalled. And the third, this one's the big one, is when there's a real opportunity ahead of you. Maybe something that could seriously grow your hustle or shift your life, and you don't go for it. Instead, you pull back. You ghost it. So let's start at the beginning, when you're still in that early idea stage. You got this spark, this thing you want to build or try or launch, and on paper, it's totally doable. You know that. But instead of acting on it, what happens? You start researching and researching and researching some more and tweaking, finding just the perfect font for your website or rewriting content. Or you find yourself saying things like, well, once I finish this course, or once the timing's better, or I'm just not ready yet. And maybe it feels like you're being responsible or thorough, but let's call it for what it is. You're stuck in prep mode. You're self-sabotaging under the guise of being productive. Because deep down, there's fear. Fear of failing. Fear of screwing up, looking stupid. Fear that maybe you will succeed and your life will change. And then what? Are your friends and family going to be supportive or resentful? There's also this sneaky little voice that says, who are you to do this? That's imposter syndrome. And if that's been showing up for you, I want you to know you're not alone. I've talked to so many people, high achievers, smart people who feel that way. It's not a reflection of your ability. It's a reflection of your subconscious conditioning. As a 22-year-old bank manager, I suffered from imposter syndrome big time. And I remember hearing Sherry Lansing. She was a pioneering powerhouse in Hollywood. In 1980, she became the first woman to head a major film studio when she was appointed president of production at 20th Century Fox, and later served as chairman and CEO of Paramount Pictures. And I'll never forget when she talked about being in those top positions, she still felt at times like she wasn't good enough. Like, I'm not qualified to be here. And at some point, the others are going to find out. And I'm thinking, really? Even someone like her at the top of her game? So when you experience imposter syndrome and start with the self-sabotage, know that you are not alone. Actually, you're in good company. So what do you do about it? You start before you feel ready. One of the most helpful truths I've ever learned is that clarity doesn't come from more thinking. It comes from doing. You can't think your way into confidence. You act your way there. You act like the person you want to become. When I was 29 years old, I was working as an independent distributor for a personal development company, and that required me to sell people into a weekend video program where there was no live speaker per se. I was there to facilitate in a minor way. So essentially, they would be buying a very high price ticket to come and watch videos in a seminar room with other people for 2 days, typically over a weekend. Not the easiest sell. Couple that with the fact that I was born with introverted tendencies, and the thought of cold call selling, which at the time I was told was required, to me was petrifying. I remember pulling up into this small town, ready to walk into the businesses in the downtown core, because that's who my market was, and selling them on this program. I found a parking spot, turned off the car, and sat there for a moment. It was a dark green Subaru sedan, black leather seats. I remember the moment and that parking spot to this day. And I began to notice how untidy things were in my car. And suddenly I felt driven to tidy it up right there and then. In that moment, apparently that was the most important thing. Also, I remember thinking how much paperwork I had to do back at my home office, and maybe I should just go home and do that. But then thankfully I realized on a conscious level what was happening. You see, it's not the conscious mind that controls the body and therefore our behavior, our actions. It's the subconscious mind. And on a conscious level, I could think of how wonderful it would be to have the seminar room filled with all these people and how they would benefit. I honestly felt that the content contained in those videos was brilliant and the best on the market. So I was a firm believer in the product. But if it were those conscious thoughts that drove behavior, I would have been out of my car and walking into those businesses as quickly as my little feet would carry me. And that's really key. You need to realize that that fear, that hesitation that you feel is not a reflection of your potential or your capability, but it is a reflection of your conditioning, your subconscious conditioning. That's what's driving your behavior. So what finally got my butt out of the car? Understanding. Because by that time, I had been studying the mind and human potential for about a decade. So I recognized what was happening. And secondly, it was my why that pulled me through that self-sabotaging fear. I was driven forward by my why to a greater degree than was the restraint of fear holding me back. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need a step. Claim a social handle, post something, reach out to that first potential customer. Say to yourself out loud, I'm starting something. I can do this. And the next time that voice in your head tells you, you're not ready, I want you to ask yourself, okay, but what would I do if I was ready? And then do that. Celebrate that mini first step and then look for an act on your next step. Now, maybe you've already started. Maybe you've taken some steps, but then things slowed down or you feel stuck. You're not alone. Sabotage has a way of changing costumes once you're in the middle of something. Let's talk about what that looks like. Now, maybe you've already started. Maybe you've taken some steps, but then things slowed down or you feel stuck. You're not alone. Sabotage has a way of changing costumes once we're in the middle of something. Let's talk about what that looks like. So let's say you've moved past the starting line. You took the leap. You claimed the handle, built a basic landing page, maybe even made your first sale or booked your first client. You're in it, you've started. And things are going okay. You're knocking off your to-do lists, but then it gets hard. Not devastatingly hard, just harder than expected. You run into your first real problem, a tech issue that you can't figure out. Your posts aren't getting any traction. You don't get a response from your outreach, or the product you're excited about suddenly feels a little more complicated to bring it to life than you thought. And in that moment, the self-sabotage begins to reemerge. It says things like, see, You're not cut out for this. Seriously, what were you thinking? This is taking too much time. Or maybe you're just not ready yet. Maybe you should try a different hustle. And because you weren't expecting hard, especially after all those "this is so easy" TikToks, it's tempting to believe it. This is the escape hatch moment. This is where a lot of people quietly back away. They don't announce they're quitting, they just stop. They let their idea gather dust. They say they're pausing to rethink or waiting until life settles down, but really, they've hit that first wall. And instead of finding a way through it, they take the detour and call it quits. That's self-sabotage. It's that moment when things don't go as smoothly as you imagined, and instead of asking, okay, how do we figure this out? Your brain goes, let's just not. But here's the truth. No one tells you this early on. Every meaningful side hustle hits that point, not just once, but over and over again. The real question isn't, how do I avoid problems? It's, what do I do when they show up? So what can you do when you hit that resistance and you feel like you want to quit? The first thing is to be very proactive. Here's how you do that. Prior to launching your side hustle, in fact, it's an even earlier step than the launch, you make a commitment to yourself that you will persevere somehow, some way, for a preset length of time or until you hit a certain milestone. Because as you proceed in your side hustle journey, momentum will dip. Doubt will creep in. So during your setup phase, commit before you're tested. I really expand on that idea in my 28-page guide called Smart Start, taking your idea to its live in 7 steps. Committing ahead of time is step 5. I'll give you an example of this. When I decided I wanted to host and produce a podcast about side hustles, I knew that I had a steep learning curve in front of me. While my 2 areas of expertise are business and personal development, meaning understanding the relationship between the way we think and the results that creates in our lives. While I'm very comfortable in those 2 arenas, I knew nothing about podcasting. So I knew that there would be challenges and times when I would see the escape hatch. Here's a good spot you can bail, Joan. Here's a good excuse. So knowing that, I made a commitment to myself at the outset that I would produce the show for 1 year. Regardless of the challenges, I made a commitment that I would produce the show weekly for 1 year and only then allow myself the opportunity to take a look a year later and then decide, is this something that I want to continue? Am I still having fun with it? And I'm really glad I did, because there were a couple of times when I seriously felt like quitting. It was a brand new show, so I was doing 100% of the outreach, finding and lining up potential guests. That's time consuming. It's a lot of work. And it's certainly something that I didn't think that I could delegate to someone, because at that point, I didn't understand who would be my ideal guests. Thankfully, now that I'm just at the beginning of starting year 4, the vast majority of potential guests are pitching me, which is pretty cool, but that didn't happen overnight. So make that commitment to yourself. How long or at what milestone are you going to give your side hustle before you even consider for a moment packing it in? If things feel hard, it doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're doing something new. Resistance doesn't mean stop. It means grow. I love doing this show. I hope that shines through. But there are times that I come across roadblocks and things not working, whether it's human related or tech issues. But because I love it and it's still fun, I realize that it's just part of the game. And I don't care how glamorous or exciting a particular side hustle or career looks like, there are aspects of it that are just head down work, get her done. Especially for the solopreneur, because you're predominantly working on your own and it can be lonely. But there are lots of ways to address that, like business groups and associations and mastermind groups. Second, when you hit that wall, ask yourself, am I making this harder than it needs to be? A lot of us respond to problems by overcomplicating. We feel stuck, so we decide we must need a whole new website or rebrand the whole thing or take a 10-week course before we can move forward. But in most cases, you just need to solve one problem. And the best way to do that is by staying in motion, asking for help, Googling your way through it, posing the question in a forum. You don't have to solve everything. You just need to solve that one thing. Back in my early planning stages of the podcast, I was convinced that I absolutely had to launch not only with audio, but video as well. So it was taking me a while to learn, just tons about the audio. And now I got to figure out video as well. Damn. I wasn't happy with the background in my studio, and I'm not a fan of those Zoom backgrounds. So I thought maybe the next best thing was green screen. That'd be simple, right? And then in post-production, I could drop whatever image I wanted to as a background. Well, I bought the green screen material and was messing around trying to get it properly set up, which was surprisingly much more difficult than I had anticipated. And then I could smell just faintly something burning. I'm thinking, what the hell could that possibly be? Yikes! It was my green screen material, part of which was touching a very hot light bulb. Not good. So it wasn't just almost burning the place down that caused me to scrap the idea of launching with video. It was that it was going to be taking way too long, and I felt that if I waited until I had all those pieces in place, I might not ever launch. So I set the idea of video aside, and it was over a year after launching the audio podcast before I even started releasing a video version. And when you're facing inevitable challenges, check in with how you're talking to yourself. If your self-talk sounds like, I'm such an idiot, or I knew I'd mess this up, that's not helping you move forward. That's reinforcing the sabotage. Instead, talk to yourself the way you would talk to a friend who just hit a roadblock. Would you tell them to give up? Of course not. You'd say, you got this. Let's figure it out. Say that to yourself. One of my favorite lines I say to myself, often out loud when I hit a roadblock, is, if I did know the answer, what would it be? If I did know the solution, what would that look like? And it's amazing the answers that open up to you when you make that shift from mentally malpracticing, as I call it, to shifting into solution mode. How can I solve this? What's the solution? Try it. Let me know how it works for you. The third and final form of sabotage I want to talk about, and this one's sneaky. It shows up when things are finally working. And then you get a huge opportunity, one that could change everything. But instead of leaning in, you come up with reasons to pull back. Let's talk about why that happens and what to do about it. Let's say you didn't bail when things got hard. You worked through the tech hiccups, pushed through the, no one's responding to me phase. And now things are starting to move. People are noticing. Maybe someone's asking to collaborate. Maybe a podcast invite lands in your inbox, or your audience starts growing. It's working. This is fun, right? And then here comes the next form of self-sabotage, the one that shows up when you're this close to something big. You get invited to be a speaker at a conference, and you know it'll be a room full of potential customers. Or you're asked to collaborate on a project that would be a huge stretch for you. And instead of being excited about it and jumping at the opportunity, you step back. Suddenly, you're dragging your feet. You don't return that email. You turn down the invitation. You tell yourself, I'm not ready for that level yet. Or maybe you ghost the opportunity completely. What's happening here is something that I've taught literally to tens of thousands of people over my past 30 plus years in my seminars. And it's a concept that originally came from Dr. Maxwell Maltz in his classic book, Psycho-Cybernetics, published way back in 1960. He explained that we all have an internal self-image, like a mental thermostat, that quietly sets the limit on how much success, happiness, or visibility we think is okay for us. And then when life starts to exceed that setting, when things begin to go better than we're used to, our subconscious tries to pull us back down to where it feels safe. Not necessarily where we're happy, but where it feels familiar, back to our comfort zone. I've seen this play out again and again in the people I've worked with. And I do my best to catch it when it shows up in my life too, because trust me, on occasion, it still does. So the familiar doesn't always mean happy. The familiar just means comfortable. It's what they're used to. So when you start breaking through your old limits, your mind says, hey, this could be hugely successful. Oops, better pull back. And it can feel super confusing. You want to grow. You want to take your side hustle to the next level. But when the door opens, something inside says, nope, not yet. And that not yet can last forever if you're not careful. So what do you do when opportunity shows up and your instinct is to shrink? First, recognize the pattern. Just being able to say, this is my internal thermostat. This is self-sabotage. I'm just in need of a reset. That simple awareness can take you out of the downward spiral. Second, Don't wait till you feel ready. You don't need to feel worthy to say yes. You don't need to feel ready to step up. Most of the people you admire, they said yes before they were fully ready. They figured it out after they committed. This has been cited by so many of our Side Hustle Hero guests. And third, rehearse the win. Seriously, visualize yourself succeeding at that next level. Hear yourself saying yes to the invite. Imagine delivering the talk or shipping the product or doubling your rates, and it's going well. Building an image of your success and really feeling what that feels like is the beginning of reconditioning your mind for success and fulfillment. And I'm going to throw in a bonus tip here. If you want to take the opportunity, if you know it's right for you, but you're still scared, get an accountability partner. Find someone you trust to be that accountability partner. It's for a specific commitment that you're making. For example, to write my book, launch my podcast. For you, it might be your commitment to follow through on this big opportunity. Then you'll check in with them once a week or every other week with reports on your progress. Having someone to hold you to account can make a huge difference in your result, even if it's just for a few weeks or a month. If you want a full rundown on how to set that up properly so it actually works, check out episode 147, How to Stop Procrastinating, Start Building. I walk you through the exact steps in there. Behind every major success I've had, there's been an accountability partner. Every single time. Because after all, the goal isn't just to start your side hustle. The goal is to stay with it, to expand it. And sometimes that means gently but firmly calling yourself out when you're starting to pull away from that very thing that you've been asking for. So if you've been wondering why you keep holding yourself back, now you know. Self-sabotage doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're lazy or you're not serious enough. It just means you're human. And you're running up against old wiring that's been in place for years, sometimes decades, mostly from your earliest of years. But the great thing is, once you see it, you can start to change it. You don't have to stay stuck. Whether you're still in idea mode and can't seem to take that first step, or you've hit resistance now that things are getting real, or you're right on the edge of something big and feel that urge to pull back, this is your moment. This is the part where you decide, am I going to retreat, or am I going to reset and move forward with more awareness and more confidence? And if you're ready to do that, I've got 2 great resources to help support you. First, grab my free guide, Smart Start, From Idea to It's Live in 7 Steps, a beginner's guide to launching your side hustle with confidence. It walks you through the exact steps to go from a spark of an idea to getting it out into the world. Even if you've never done this before, it's 28 pages, super practical, and totally free for now. I can't promise it'll always be free, but it is for now. Just head to my website and sign up for our Side Hustle community, also free, and you'll get instant access. And second, if you want to go deeper into the mindset of things, into the beliefs and mental patterns that drive your results, check out my video course, How to Turn Your Thoughts into Wanted Things. It's a 12-part masterclass that draws on decades of research, study, and real-world application. I just don't teach, I do. I take you behind the scenes on how to alter your self-image, rewire limiting beliefs, and actually see yourself succeeding so that you can move from stuck to unstoppable. Links to both are in the show notes. Well, that's a wrap for today. If our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider showing your support by visiting sidehustlehero.com/support. That's where you can shoot me a virtual coffee. It's a real thing and a fun way to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up. Thank you so much. In the episode description, you'll find links to the episodes and resources mentioned, as well as the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start and grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.